time for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy isn't doing what he does the most. Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo.
Hey, come on, get involved till the mystery is solved.
Hang around for Scooby Doo. That's my pal. Scooby Dooby Doo.
Hello, Scooby Doo fans! Welcome to my Season 3, Episode 6 review of The Scooby Doo Show. So last time I continued my 2025 Summer Special with the review of Season 3, Episode 5 of The Scooby Doo Show. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 3, Episode 6 of The Scooby Doo Show, titled A Highland Fling with a Monstrous Thing, which was released on October 14th, 1978. The short synopsis of the episode is, Mystery Inc. traveled to Scotland to help Velma's friend, Aggie Macduff, at her ancestral home, Castle Macduff. Aggie has turned the castle into a tourist attraction, but it is now being haunted by the ghost of her great-grandfather, Finian Macduff. Finian has summoned the Loch Ness Monster to scare away potential tourists. So as per usual, I'll be watching Season 3, Episode 6 of the Scooby Doo Show on the Scooby Doo Wario, the complete series box set. This box set has both seasons of Scooby Doo Wario, as well as the third season of the Scooby Doo Show. If you're wondering why the third season of the Scooby Doo Show is on the Scooby Doo Wario box set, like I've said in my previous videos, it's because Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers like to falsely advertise the third season of the Scooby Doo Show as a fake third season to Scooby Doo Wario. But as I've established many times on the channel, there was no third season of Scooby Doo Wario, so the Scooby Doo Show lasted for 3 seasons, while Scooby Doo Wario only lasted 2 seasons. Now, as far as this episode's reception is concerned, I'm not really sure how fans feel about this particular episode. I don't hear it talked about a lot, but considering the Scooby Doo Show is a show that's a bit underrated by the casual audience, not by the die-hard Scooby Doo fans, but definitely the casual audience is definitely, you know, not giving this show a lot of attention. A lot of it has to do with how Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers market it, essentially. But still, yeah, it doesn't get as much attention from the casual viewing audience. So we don't get a lot of discussion about the Scooby-Doo episodes. Even from the die-hard fans, from what I understand, don't really provide too much discussion online about a lot of these episodes. So this is one of those episodes where I'm not really sure how it's going to hold up. But I guess there's really only one way to find out whether this is a good, bad, or average episode. So let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the episode to see whether I think it is a good or bad episode of the Scooby Doo Show. The episode begins with the gang traveling to Scotland to visit Velma's friend, Aggie Macduff, who lives in an ancient castle that has been turned into a tourist attraction. On the way there, the gang pass by the loch, where they see a ghostly Scottish Highlander playing the bagpipes and a huge Loch Ness Monster in the lake. They stop at a nearby inn to ask directions, where the innkeeper warns them to stay away from Macduff Castle. They ignore his warnings and head to the castle, where Aggie tells them that a monster and a ghost have been scaring all the tourists away. They meet her assistant, Mr. Jamie Craigmore, who claimed to have seen the ghost as well. The ghost happens to be Aggie's great-grandfather, Finian Macduff. The gang head to sleep when Shaggy and Scooby are terrorized by the Loch Ness Monster. The rest of the gang appear just in time to see the ghost of Finian Macduff standing on one of the castle turrets. Fred, Velma, and Daphne decides to search the turret for clues, while Shaggy and Scooby search the rest of the castle. Finding themselves in the library, Shaggy and Scooby find a note that says Switzer and 100 wristwatches. A clue. Meanwhile, Fred, Velma, Daphne, and Aggie search the turret and find a weather report and a roll of wire. They meet up with Shaggy and Scooby, who have been chased by the ghost. Aggie then shows the gang a section of the castle that has been closed off for centuries. Even though that section of the castle has been closed off, there are footprints down there, meaning someone has been down there recently. They come to an old door where there is fresh oil on the hinge. It is there that they discover hundreds of boxes of wristwatches stamped Made in Switzerland. They discover what is going on and decide to trap the ghost and the Loch Ness Monster. Scooby begins playing the bagpipes, summoning the Loch Ness Monster, with Shaggy unwittingly on top of the Loch Ness Monster's head, who turns out to be a mechanical monster that is controlled by the sound of the bagpipes. They trap the ghost of Finian Macduff, who turns out to be Jamie Craigmore.
Okay, Scooby, start playing those bagpipes, and don't stop. Okay.
Hey, it's working.
Help! Hang on, Shaggy! Here they come.
We got 'em.
Now we'll pump out the water, and they'll be high and dry. Like I thought I was a goner. Now let's take a look at our ghost.
Why, it's Jamie Craigmore.
Back at McDuff Castle, a concerned Neil Dunwoody tells the gang that he came to the castle to keep an eye on Aggie. Aggie thanks Dunwoody for the concern and asks her friends how they figured out what was going on. Velma starts by saying that Scooby found the first clue, a scrap of paper that Jamie neglected to burn. Jamie was smuggling in wristwatches and other goods from Switzerland and making a fortune out of it. However, Aggie taking in tour guides interfered with his scheme, so he devised a plan to scare the tourists away. Velma explains that first, Jamie disguised himself as Phineas McDuff's ghost. Fred adds that on foggy nights, Jamie would smuggle the goods in a mini-sub disguised as the Loch Ness Monster. Daphne says that the sub was controlled automatically by the sound of the bagpipes, and Shaggy tells Aggie that that's why Scooby played the bagpipes, and the monster came after him. Aggie asks how the ghost floated earlier on one of the turrets, and Daphne tells Aggie that he wasn't really floating, he was sliding down a wire. Aggie thanks the gang and Scooby for solving the mystery, and now she can take in tourists once again. Velma wonders what happened to Scooby. Scooby comes in dressed like a traditional Scotsman and begins playing the bagpipes perfectly. However, the song that Scooby plays starts to skip, revealing that he's faking the bagpipe playing with a record player. And Scooby laughs at the end, saying his famous catchphrase.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
I'm going to give Season 3, Episode 6 of the Scooby Doo Show 2 stars out of 5. Yeah, this was yet another below-average episode. It, once again, just wasn't that great. It was a step up from the previous episode, I'll give it that. But, again, we have another pretty lackluster episode. So, once again, the episode just, it didn't really do it for me. There were a lot of problems with it. Obviously, it wasn't devoid of any positives. It did have some good aspects to it. But overall, it was a very below-average experience. Not really one of the better episodes of the series as a whole and Season 3. So I guess before I get into my negatives for the episode and what makes this episode below average for me, I'll get into my positives for the episode and what I actually did like about the episode. So starting with the positives, my first one is I think both Fred and Velma were good in this episode. They both helped piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. I felt they had a joint experience on that front. I don't think Fred was really much of a leader. I didn't really get much leadership vibes from him. He had moments here or there, but I felt overall he didn't really feel like he fulfilled his basic role as a leader. But I felt him and Velma, collectively helped piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. And they each found a clue. Velma found the weather report up in the turret, the castle turret. And Fred found the roll of wire in one of the rooms, which explained how, Jamie Craigmore was able to make himself appear to fly. And Fred also created a cool improvised trap at the end. Not one of his more exquisite traps, but it was pretty cool. He had Scooby use the bagpipes to his advantage because it was clear that it was, the Loch Ness Monster was following it. And he, used some kind of drop-down door, I guess, to trap it in a certain part of the castle, which was cool. So yeah, Fred used what he had to his advantage, but I felt overall it was a cool improvised trap, but it wasn't one of his more exquisite traps. It wasn't really that, very amazing, but it was still cool enough. So yeah, I felt overall Fred and Velma both did well. They collectively each found one clue in the episode. They both helped piece together the clues to help solve the mystery, and Fred created a nice little cool improvised trap at the end to help capture the Loch Ness Monster and the ghost of Phineas McDuff. Then we have Scooby. Scooby was good in this episode. He helped find one of the clues to the episode, in fact, one of the most important and vital clues to the episode, which was the piece of paper with the Switzer and 100 wristwatches written on it. So that was definitely a very vital clue that Scooby found that really was integral to solving the mystery. But he also helped capture both of the villains at the end. I mean, he was the one that helped play the bagpipes to lure both of the villains into the trap. So Scooby overall I felt was good. He found the most vital clue of the episode, and he helped lure both of the villains into the trap by using the bagpipes to his advantage, which was cool. Next up, we have the motive of the episode, which I thought was good as well. So the motive for Jamie Craigmore was that essentially he wanted to scare everyone away from the castle so that basically he could continue his scheme of smuggling wristwatches and other goods into the country from Switzerland unnoticed. So a smuggling motive, nothing new. We've had this before in the Scooby Doo Show and the Scooby Doo franchise as a whole, so nothing new on that front. But what makes this motive good for me is, for one, I do like the aspect that, you know, the main thing he's smuggling is wristwatches. That's pretty cool. That's something unique we hadn't had before. He has a certain affinity to watches. They say other goods, but we don't really see the other goods that apparently he was supposedly smuggling. So for the most part, it was probably just wristwatches. And it's cool because not only because of his fixation on wristwatches, but also because it fits from where he's smuggling from. Switzerland's known for their wristwatches, so it would make sense that he would smuggle those because those are very valuable. But also, another aspect that I really like is that I think this is the first time they have a smuggling motive where someone's not trying to smuggle something out of the country. Someone's basically trying to smuggle something into the country. So rather than Jamie Craigmore smuggling something out of Scotland to another country, instead he's smuggling something from Switzerland into Scotland, which is actually really cool. That's something that we hadn't seen before, a person smuggling something into the country rather than out of the country, because normally that's how it goes with these smuggling motives. But having him smuggle goods from another country into Scotland is actually a really neat idea, especially with the wristwatch angle, because watches are something particularly new, I believe, we've had in the franchise in terms of smuggling. I'm sure, like, I don't think any previous smuggling operations ever had watches involved in it, and if it did, it played a very minor role, whereas I think it's cool that he has this fixation on watches, and it makes sense because Switzerland's known for them, and they're very valuable, and it seems he was making a fortune out of it. So yeah, the aspect that he's, you know, smuggling in these watches from Switzerland, which are very profitable, obviously, and smuggling them into the country are really cool and interesting, unique angles that help make the smuggling motive fresh and unique. Normally, it'd be not that inventive on its own, but the fact that he's smuggling something into the country and is fixating on wristwatches from Switzerland is really cool, and I kind of like that aspect. It adds a layer and dynamic to the motive that a normal, you know, bland, bare bones smuggling motive would not have. I found the mystery of the episode to be good as well. So the mystery I found in this episode was that essentially you wanted to know, why was Aggie McDuff's great-grandfather, Finian McDuff, why was he haunting the castle and scaring these tourists away? We don't know his backstory, so we don't know why he would want to scare tourists out of his castle, unless if he's an antisocial person and doesn't want people in his castle. You would think he would actually like the company and actually like that his great-granddaughter is making business off of it and bringing more, you know, focus to his castle. So that's definitely an interesting mystery there. But also another interesting mystery is how you want to know how you could basically summon the Loch Ness Monster to do his bidding. You know, the Loch Ness Monster is not known for following humans. It's kind of its own mythological, you know, monster. So why would it follow this random Scottish ghost and scare tourists away from its castle, his castle? Like, what would it gain for that? You know, how would he be able to do that? First of all, how would he be able to convince the Loch Ness Monster of all beings to do his bidding? And what would be the point for the Loch Ness Monster to do that? So, very interesting aspects there. And the answers we get are interesting because of the motive aspect. And we find out, you know, how everything was achieved and how the Loch Ness Monster was really a mini-sub dressed as in a Loch Ness Monster costume and was smuggling the goods, actually. But yeah, overall, I felt those were the two most compelling mysteries. Why Aggie's great-grandfather was haunting the castle and scaring tourists away, and how was he able to summon and conjure up this Loch Ness Monster to do his bidding and scare away tourists as well. And my final positive is that I found the clues of the episode to be good as well. So the clues of the episode were essentially the roll of wire that Fred found. You had the piece of paper with Switzer and 100 wristwatches written on it. And then you had the weather report. You can maybe throw in the room that Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Aggie find with the wristwatches in it, but those are really the main clues. All those clues help point towards the motive of the villain and how he's able to achieve what he's doing. So the clues fulfill their basic role of pointing towards the motive. Once you start seeing, you know, the paper with Switzers and 100 wristwatches written on it, and then when Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Aggie discover that room with a bunch of crates and wristwatches and other goods, you can basically you get an idea of what the motive is. And then the roll of wire and the weather report also explains, you know, how he was able to achieve doing that, using the weather to his advantage and picking and choosing the right times to smuggle goods into the country, and how he was able to basically do that flying maneuver off the castle turret in front of the entire gang and Aggie. But that's all I got for positives for the episode, so I think it's about time to get on to the negatives of the episode and what I really didn't like about the episode. So starting with the negatives, my first one is I think Daphne and Shaggy were weak in this episode. Yeah, no surprise here. Another episode where Daphne and Shaggy are weak. Jesus. Like, we just keep getting multiple episodes of Daphne not doing anything good. I mean, I feel like I have to keep repeating myself. And Shaggy has not been on a good roll these last couple episodes. I mean, it's really a shame that he's my favorite character, and he's being utilized so poorly for the first half of Season 3. We're almost halfway through, and they still haven't given Daphne and Shaggy a lot of material to work with. Scooby's squeaked through a few times, but even he's had his bad moments. It seems like Fred and Velma are the only ones that's been able to go about it unscathed for the most part. But yeah, I mean, Daphne, like I said, previous episodes, she just didn't do anything. She wasn't a leader. She did not piece together the clues to help solve the mystery. She didn't find any of the clues in this episode. And she was not funny or cowardly in this episode either. Shaggy didn't fulfill his basic role at all. I mean, I almost wanted to give him credit for him and Scooby finding that clue. But the episode credits Scooby with finding that clue. And, you know, watching that episode, it's clear that Scooby was the one that noticed it. And Shaggy just picked it up. So I can't really even credit Shaggy with finding that. I almost was thinking about it, but then I was like, no, it was really Scooby who found it. That really was his doing. Like, he was the one that noticed the clue. Shaggy just picked it up for him. So he didn't find any clues, and he had no real hand in helping capture the villain at the end. He just, unfortunately, was on the top of the Loch Ness Monster's head. He wasn't really bait or anything. And he just didn't fulfill his basic role of being funny or cowardly. I don't think he had a lot of humorous moments at all. Neither him nor Scooby really had humorous moments in this episode. I didn't really get any good humor in this episode. They also weren't that cowardly. I mean, they had their moments, but I don't feel like they were too cowardly in this episode, at least to me. So I just kind of feel like Shaggy just didn't fulfill his basic role at all, and he just didn't really do anything substantial in the episode. So yeah, unfortunately, another episode where Daphne and Shaggy are just not being utilized great. Hopefully we can get this fixed. We're almost about halfway through Season 3, so I'm hoping this gets fixed. But yeah, this is not a good start to the season for Daphne and Shaggy, and hell, even Scooby at certain points. Then we have the villains of the episode, who I thought were weak as well. I really wasn't a fan of either of the villains in this episode. I know it could technically be argued that the Loch Ness Monster isn't technically a villain, but I feel I would be hypocritical if I count Charlie the Robot and the No-Face Zombie, but don't count the Loch Ness Monster. even if he is a mini sub dressed as in a Loch Ness Monster costume, I still feel at least I have to mention him and at least give him, you know, his props and dues. Because he technically is a villain, because for the majority of the episode, you are led to believe it's somebody behind that costume. You're not thinking it's going to be a mini submarine disguised as a Loch Ness Monster. So yeah, there's nothing really scary or entertaining about the Loch Ness Monster. It's very repetitive. We've seen the Loch Ness Monster in Scooby Doo before. And while it fits the setting of Scotland well, we've seen it before, and it's just very repetitive, and the Loch Ness Monster himself is very underutilized. He doesn't have that much to do. He has like maybe 2 moments where he's pretty intimidating and creepy, but other than that, I really don't find anything about him scary or entertaining. So yeah, not really a good villain. But obviously you have the main villain of the episode, who's the ghost of Finian Macduff. The ghost of Finian Macduff is a very terrible villain, to be quite honest. He's not scary in the slightest. All he does is play bagpipes. He's just this old Scottish Highlander who plays bagpipes. There's nothing scary about the guy. Like, he doesn't do anything scary at all. And he's not entertaining or fun to watch either. Like, there's nothing fun about him as a villain. He's just so boring and mundane. Like, if I saw this guy in Scotland, I honestly wouldn't even be that scared of him, even if that was a ghost. I'm just like, oh, this nice ghost just played me a tune from the bagpipes. Cool, I guess. But not really scary. Even if it's a foggy and dark night out, I'm not going to be scared if I see some random Scottish guy playing the bagpipes on one of the hills. Like, it just isn't scary to me. Like, I've heard bagpipes played before in the St. Patrick's Day parade. They're not very scary, to be quite honest. There's nothing intimidating about him. It's just normal music. Like, so yeah, the guy, he does nothing remotely scary in the slightest. There's nothing about him that's scary. All he does is play the bagpipes and stand there. And even when he doesn't play the bagpipes and tries to chase after Shaggy and Scooby at one point, he still isn't scary. There's nothing about the guy that's scary. He makes these stupid growls. He's terrible. Like, there's nothing fun about him at all. So, yeah, very bland and mundane and boring villain. While he fits the setting, I don't know. They could have been more creative than this. Like, there's nothing scary in the slightest about this guy. So, yeah, weak across the board on the villain front. It was very bland and repetitive and mundane from both of the villains. Nothing remotely scary about them, and nothing remotely entertaining about them. Outside of costume, I found Jamie Craigmore to be very uninteresting. I mean, we barely even meet the guy. We barely know anything about him. All he does is just tell them, oh, I saw the ghost, which is obviously a lie, because he didn't see them. He was just kind of lying about it just to, you know, make himself feel like he was a part of the discussion, like just to cover his tracks. But we don't know anything about him. He doesn't set up the backstory for Finian Macduff or the Loch Ness Monster. That's really what Aggie does. And he doesn't have anything interesting about him. We've only seen him in one scene. So yeah, there's nothing interesting about him as a character outside of costume. He's a very nothing character. He just works at the castle with Aggie. And yeah, he's a nothing character. He does nothing at all in the episode. He contributes nothing. Very bland and non-existent character. Very uninteresting. There were a lack of suspects in the episode, so you only had 2 suspects in the episode. You had Neil Dunwoody, who was the innkeeper at the inn near Macduff Castle, and then you had Jamie Craigmore, who worked at the Macduff Castle with Aggie Macduff. So 2 villains, 2 suspects, not really good. Definitely need a bigger suspect pool than that to kind of make it, you know, less obvious on who it could be. It'd be one thing if it was 1 villain, because then it'd be like a 50-50, but because there's 2, it kind of makes it pretty obvious on what possible combinations it could be. So yeah, they definitely needed a bigger suspect pool to create more mystery on who the identity of the villains could be. I found the atmosphere to be very non-existent in this episode. I felt no sort of tension or suspense, or creepiness or eeriness. Wasn't fearing for the gang's safety, wasn't on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next, didn't find anything creepy or eerie about the villains or the setting. So yeah, there wasn't really any atmosphere to speak of. They did try with the foggy dark night, but it didn't do it for me. It didn't work. There just wasn't any sort of atmosphere from either the villains or the setting or anything else in the episode that provided any sort of tension or suspense or any sort of creepiness or eeriness. And my final negative is I found the setting of the episode to be very weak. So the main setting of the episode is Macduff Castle. Now, I like the idea of Scotland being a setting. Scotland's a very neat idea for a setting. This is something new. I don't think we've had a Scooby Doo episode set in Scotland yet, so this was really awesome. They don't really take advantage of it, though, because they basically go back to a bland, boring castle setting, which we've seen before, and the castle is nothing new. There's nothing interesting about it. It's a very repetitive and boring setting. Nothing about Macduff Castle it has any sort of variety or uniqueness to it. It's like any other castle we've seen in the Scooby Doo show and previous shows. So yeah, while I like the idea of Scotland as a setting, and I really think they had a great idea there, and they could have executed it well, I think they just ended up executing it very poorly because they just basically went with another castle setting, and they didn't do enough to it to make it stand out or distinguish it in any way. It just felt very repetitive and derivative of previous castle settings. So yeah, nothing interesting about Castle Macduff or Macduff Castle. You know, it's a very bland setting. You've seen castles before in Scooby-Doo, and this isn't anything new. It's just very repetitive, and like I said, just executed very poorly. Like the idea of a Scotland setting, just wish they executed it a bit better than this. Overall, guys, I would personally not recommend this episode to fans and newcomers of the show. It's just not a great episode. It's a very below-average episode that's just held back by a weak villain, weak atmosphere, and weak setting. Just not one of the better Scooby-Doo show episodes, and it's just another dud of Season 3. Not worth your time. It just isn't one of the better episodes for me, so yeah, you can skip this one for, honestly. It's not really anything new or interesting. I don't feel it's worth your time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give it a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Do you like this episode? Do you think I'm being too harsh on it? Are there things that you see that I don't see? Do you hate this episode? I'd be interested in that as well. Are you kind of on the same level with me where you think it's below average or even terrible? And have some of the same criticisms as me, or maybe think it's even worse than I'm making it out to be? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you think it's okay, it's decent and average, but it's not good or bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, so let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby-Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in any of my other content. Obviously, this is a Scooby-Doo focused channel, so we cover all things ranging from the TV shows, the films, the video games, and the books, as well as a miscellaneous of, other Scooby media. But yes, if you're a diehard Scooby-Doo fan or a casual Scooby-Doo fan, whichever side of the fence you're on, if you like Scooby-Doo and you want to be involved in discussions on individual episodes, movies, video games, and books, and maybe learn more about Scooby's history, then yeah, come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby-Doo content. In my next video, I'll continue my 2025 summer special with a review of Season 3, Episode 7 of the Scooby Doo Show, titled The Creepy Case of Old Iron Face. I'm actually a bit curious about this episode, decently curious. Haven't seen this episode in quite a while, but I do know Iron Face is a very well-remembered Scooby Doo villain. He's a bit iconic. So I'm very interested to see if this episode holds up. Iron Face is held in very high regard. This is definitely one of the Scooby Doo show episodes that does get a bit of praise. So I haven't seen it in quite a while, though, so I'm interested to see if maybe it's an underrated gem. That deserves the praise it gets. Or if I don't go back to it for a reason and maybe disagree with the majority of people on it. But if you want to know my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 7, The Creepy Case of Old Iron Face, then come join me next time. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.
for a brand new show. Scooby Doo is here again, away we go.
Scooby Doo is running from a spooky ghost.
Shaggy is a doing what he does